This is an India Today exclusive. I'm being joined by none other than Faris Maumoon himself, son of former President of the Maldives, a presidential contender himself who fought the last elections and heads the Maldives Reforms Movement. Thank you so much for joining us here on India Today. What do you make of the controversy that we see between India and the Maldives at a critical juncture where things were moving at a very fast pace between India and the Maldives? Do you think this is a huge setback, that it will take India and the Maldives back to Yamin days?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I think I should start off by saying that I firmly condemn these abhorrent statements by government officials, and I am very confident in saying that they do not reflect the views of the vast majority of Maldivians. So that has to be made clear. And in the context, I think because certain steps were not taken initially, things have sort of grown out of proportion. That is unfortunate. I do believe firmly that we should initially look at the context, set aside the fact that this is India and Maldives. These are two sovereign nations, and it is not acceptable. It is not an acceptable international norm. It is not diplomacy for one government official to use such language, to express such emotions against the head of state or any high-ranking official of another country. So in that sense, I think the government of Maldives have to do two things. They had to do it initially on the spot at the time it happened. They had to remove these offenders, and they had to apologize. I think things have grown exponentially. Things have worsened over the past few days simply because adequate measures had not been taken by the government of Maldives. I think all other context needs to be the context should be this, rather than the long-standing relationship between India and Maldives. I am sure that this controversy shall pass, but I'm very hopeful. I am working in public and as well through private channels, direct channels, to get the government to accept these facts that this is one sovereign nation, and our government officials are appointed by the president. In stark contrast to India, we have a presidential system. So government ministers, deputy ministers are appointed at the pleasure of the president himself. These are not elected officials, so whatever they say represents the views of the government and of the president himself. So
these are not personal, like was said in the statement?
It cannot be personal statements, and that's another thing we have to allude to. I think our political climate does not give the opportunity for newly seated officials to get appropriate training, appropriate advice and guidelines. These are fairly, I think, junior level political activists who suddenly find themselves in these powerful positions. I think this is something that people looking from India should understand, that we have a very different political culture in this country.
This is very important, Mr. Faris Maumoon. You were saying that suspension is not enough.
It is not enough.
A lot of people have been reporting that at least Muizzu government suspended these ministers. We ourselves were talking about the fact that suspension happened, but you're saying that a suspension, temporary suspension, is not enough, and that they need to be terminated. That's the action that is required.
I do believe that is the action that's required, because we have to make it very clear that this is not the government's stand. By allowing them, suspending for temporarily and then bringing them back, that sort of gives a message. And India is a very honorable, self-respecting country, and I tend to analyze it this way. What if Maldives president had been attacked in this manner by some foreign government official?
That's a fair point.
Yeah, so it's not about whether it's India or Maldives, it is about international norms, and I don't think any self-respecting government would accept this. just a suspicion, just a rap on the knuckles, and then let's move on with things. I think the situation has not calmed down simply because of this fact.
How do you see and read the geopolitics of Maldives today, foreign policy decisions that Muizzu government is taking? We had the India Out campaign. They spoke about military. Where are the military personnel? What military footprint of India was the administration really talking about?
I think, first of all, we condemned the use of the slogan India Out. It was very ill advised. And now to find these same people to be the leaders of the country, it is an awkward situation because you can never forget these things. There's no way you unsee
Or undo.
You get the visual where you have a person wearing a red shirt saying India Out. Maybe it serves a short-term purpose, but now when you're representing the whole country, that is a huge amount of baggage to carry around. There's no escaping that photo now. So that was very ill-advised. Maybe it served their short-term purposes, but now they find it will be a hindrance going forward because this is one key point I made. I think a lot of people's support I gained through this, that Maldivians like their independence, they like their sovereignty. We need to feel that we make our own decisions. What we've seen over the past few administrations is that we've lost that sense of balance, that sense of neutrality. We tend to flip-flop from one extreme to the other extreme internationally in our foreign relations. And I think we are again seeing an overcorrection. A lot of people felt, myself included, that we were actually going too much towards India in the past 5 years, and that's where the current government got its leverage with the public, because the previous government weren't able to explain themselves adequately about Indian presence in the Maldives, especially military presence in the Maldives. They tended to shy away from the difficult questions. Now the current government has come in. They found out that they had been running a campaign that was based on exaggerations, and they haven't been able to, it's well over a month now, they haven't been able to come up with clear answers, and some of that, the talk has turned into just political rhetoric, and that doesn't bode well for the future. A lot of, some elements of the public have already lost confidence. So this is something that is not good for the country, because we are at the beginning of a presidential term. We have close to 5 more years of this administration to forge ahead with. And I don't think dumping one country to favor or to get closer to another, that doesn't work. This is not child's play. This is something that needs proper planning. It needs proper engagement with India, with other countries if needed. But these things have to be done diplomatically. You don't do this by suddenly ghosting someone or stonewalling someone and moving on to the next adventure, so to speak.
Do you think tourism will be impacted? A lot of people in India are very upset with what's happening in the Maldives. Many of them have called for a boycott of Maldives. Many have cancelled their vacations here. How do you think this entire controversy is going to play out in the coming days? Not much of a difference right now, because those who've booked have already come. We saw a lot of people come in yesterday as well from India. But how do you think it'll play out in the coming days?
If the situation is not properly resolved, and I mean by this that the government of Maldives takes the appropriate actions immediately, it's already a bit late, but better late than never. If the actions are taken, I think the situation will be healed, then we can all move forward. But the situation is still not resolved as I see it. And in this instance, I think there is a fear that our tourism and our economy might get impacted, because we do depend on Indian tourist arrivals. We have a lot of foreign investment coming from India. We have a lot of expat workers, Indian workers here, which we host very gladly, and we are thankful for their work here. So all of these things, we are very, very finely intertwined countries. so many levels of engagement politically, state to state, government to government. We have people to people engagements, have cultural engagements. We Maldivians rely a lot on India for health services, for education. We feel India is a second home for most of us. So all of these things might get impacted. I do hope, it is my sincere wish that it does not happen. And I think the current blowing up of this issue is not helpful, and I would appeal to all sides to try and calm down, see the issue in context. There are a lot of trolling, there's a lot of people, I think some elements from both countries trying to again further build up this tension, which is not helpful. We are bringing in unrelated factors into the argument. We are bringing up historically forgotten incidents. So these are not beneficial for India. This is not beneficial for the Maldives, and I do hope that this situation can be resolved amicably in the very close future.
When I move around in the Maldives, I see how deeply entrenched India is in not just the culture, the infrastructure, the workforce. The hospitals over here are built by India, doctors and nurses are from India. But also important over here is the waters that we share, the Indian Ocean. And strategically speaking, how do you see a massive vacuum that could be created should this controversy and the acrimonious relationship continue? Because this certainly is going to be very important in the coming days, not just in terms of maritime navigation, etc., but also maritime security.
That's very true, and I'm very, very confident that saner heads will prevail, that we will see sense very soon, and that the situation will be calmed down. And I don't think we should. I'm not imagining the scenario you mentioned, and that's a very difficult scenario because the Maldives might be a small country, our economy might be small, but we are situated in an area of the world that is highly strategic. Not just for the littoral countries of the Indian Ocean, but international trade, global trade. A lot of ships pass through the area strategically, militarily. I do appreciate that we are right next door to India, so India has a huge interest in our foreign relations, in what we do, but I would like to suggest that we do need, as Maldivians, to retain our sense of independence. And some of the actions of the previous government, we were part of the government as well. We advised internally. We met with Indian diplomats as well, and we did raise the issue from years ago that the proper scenario was not being explained properly to the Maldivian public. And this gave rise to many doubts, to suspicions. And again, we have to mention that our constitution has some issues that we need to resolve, because personally I don't believe that all the military engagements of any country's armies, their defense pacts, they're not everything cannot be made public. Because by sharing with the public, you are sharing with your potential enemies as well.
Yes.
So, but our constitution does not allow for that right now. I think there needs to be internal amendment. This is nothing to do with any external power, nothing to do with India. If there has to be any blame put on anyone for the actions of the previous 5 years, it solely lies with the Maldivians, with the Maldivian government at the time. We do not blame India in any aspect, because India has done nothing wrong. They've done everything by the book. They've signed all the agreements, contracts that were validated by the government of the time. So for us to direct any anger towards India is uncalled for, because if there is to be any anger, or if there is to be any accountability brought, it has to be with the Maldivians in charge of running the country. So I hope the Maldivian people and the Indian people are very close together. So that should remain, that will remain. It's not possible, I hope that it's not possible for any incumbent or incoming government to damage these long-standing historical cultural links that extend back centuries. So
right.
It's not possible just to say, okay, we are pivoting our foreign policy to eastwards, that we just forget about these links. The links are too ingrained, they're intertwined, and a politician coming in cannot just rip that apart.
On that note, Faris Maumoon, thank you so much for joining us here on India Today.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity, and I wish the best for Maldives-India relations, and I wish to assure that all Indians in the Maldives, they're very welcome here. We will greet you, we will welcome you with open arms. I do hope this issue is only a diplomatic level issue. There's nothing to do with the people of the two countries, nothing to do with our tourism sectors, and it will, I hope, be resolved very quickly and forgotten soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.